listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Goldseth.
It is Thursday, May 16th.
I'm itchy.
You're itchy. Did you stay up and watch the Blues last night?
I listened to it. Our TV's not working right now. Also, we don't have cable, so I don't think we could have watched it anyway. But I listened to it, and it was brutal.
I heard.
Was not happy. My friend and I were sending gifts back and forth to each other. It was amusing, and then it was really just depressing.
By gifts, you mean images, right?
Moving images.
Thank you.
It's a moving picture. Talking picture.
Happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
Your KFUO anniversary. 3 years that
I made it.
You survived a cubicle next to mine.
It's true.
Glad to have you on board for 3 years. I was sharing a Facebook memory today. Did you see that?
I saw the notification, but I haven't looked yet. Should I look right now?
It was like last year or
totally
sometime.
on Facebook right now, guys.
That said, what did you say? Something about, it's nice to have a millennial on staff, and you're like, someone's got to do the social media around here.
I did say that.
We have two great topics on deck today. We're always talking about opportunities to serve, but many of us remember not too long ago the devastating flooding that overtook the Midwest, especially in parts of Nebraska. And Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Fremont is ready to start, or they're organizing and ready to start lining up volunteers for this summer to help with recovery efforts. So we're going to talk with them. And it's May 16th, which apparently the church is not the only one who has movable holidays.
This is true.
Yes. We're in the middle of Ramadan, is that right?
Sort of.
Sort of in the middle of Ramadan.
A weekish ago, I think.
I know very little about it.
I grew up in Dearborn, so
okay. So you grew up in a
Muslim
community,
neighbors.
Lots of Muslim neighbors. I have very few. So I think it's helpful to learn a little bit about our Muslim neighbors and what this season means, so that when we're talking with them, we know.
We
a
have
little
some
bit about them.
cultural background.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that in the second half as well. Thanks so much for joining us for the Coffee Hour, and thanks to our friends at Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about them at cuw.edu, cuw.edu, Live Uncommon. And they are sharing a bunch of really great stories right now about their grads. I just read two great stories, one about a speech pathologist and one about a nurse. Good stuff. So
all on Twitter.
Yeah, follow them. Well, and I saw them on Facebook too. So check them out on Facebook or Twitter, or all the interweb stuff, and learn more about them. We're heading now to Fremont, Nebraska. Remkea Ockander is the Director of Youth and Family Ministry at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Fremont, Nebraska. Remkea, thanks so much for being our guest.
Thank you for having me on so we can kind of talk about our great needs for volunteers here. So I appreciate you helping us promote that.
Absolutely. Tell us about Fremont and the surrounding communities, Fremont, Nebraska and the surrounding communities, what they were like prior to the floods that took place this early spring.
Well, first of all, the flood was just massive. 70% of the counties in Nebraska were declared federal disaster areas. So while we were in Fremont, there are plenty of pockets throughout all of Nebraska that actually have been affected by this. And what was happening in Fremont is what we have found is after the floods, we found that there was about 22% of all FEMA requests from this flood actually came from Fremont, which I know percentage-wise doesn't sound a lot, but that means a quarter of all the FEMA applications came from our city. So we were hit pretty hard, and our surrounding neighborhoods were as well. Fremont is a rather smaller town, not a huge community, but around us we have a lot of farmland, and we have a lot of tiny towns. So we're talking towns we have a town north of us that's about 100 people. We have a town south of us that's about 2,000. So we're kind of a central hub of a larger town surrounded by all kinds of smaller communities. And so a lot of our smaller communities, that's before the flood, after the flood, our smaller communities have been severely affected, as well as Fremont. During the flood, actually, Fremont, you couldn't get to Fremont. Every single road and bridge was covered in water, and it became an island. And the only way in and out of Fremont was literally helicopter, and then they were taking tiny planes to get people, if they needed to, especially for emergencies, move them to hospitals. So as a result, we still have limited ways in which we can actually get to Fremont. I actually live in Omaha, and so I couldn't get to work. And now even there's only one way I can get from Omaha. There used to be 4 different ways. Now there's only one way. So A lot of damage that we're still trying to recover from and pick up the pieces from.
Describe some of that damage. I know I saw some pictures on Facebook in the weeks following the flood, and it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
These pictures of what these floods did to not only the fields, but just the infrastructure of that area. Describe some of that devastation in your area.
Yeah, well, as far as homes go, it was varying levels of flooding. Some of the homes, we have some members at our church, actually, just their basement flooded. But then we have several members of our church where their entire house was flooded and they lost everything. So it's just varying degrees of that, and that doesn't even account for farmers. People take for granted what farmers do for us, and our farmers, their farmland, because of all this water coming in, I can drive you by several places where sand piles look like ginormous snow piles because the water brought in so much sand and dumped it on farmland. So farmers are having to, you'll see on the outskirts of some of their fields, they just bulldozed the sand that came in, and you see piles of sand around the outside so that they can plant because we're in planting season. So there's that piece of it. There's a town just north of us where the entire town, it's one of those small towns, is completely devastated and uncertain what's really going to happen with that town, if it's actually going to be able to be rebuilt because of regulations and things that are requiring of those people to be able to rebuild. I was just had a group in last week volunteering, and we have some like trailer home type of situations in our community, and so they were crawling underneath, ripping out the insulation. You take for granted that when water gets up under those, that's tough. I mean, you got to get under there, rip that all out as quickly as you can. So that's the other thing is some places around here, we're ready to start putting pieces back together, but a lot of the places around here, we actually are still ripping stuff out. We are still removing. I just had 2 phone calls yesterday from people that said, can you help us? We just need stuff taken out. And that's sad to me because we are over a month away from that. And the longer that stuff sits, the more mold that amasses and the harder it is to actually be able to rebuild after that. So the good news is that people are reaching out to us and letting us know their needs. And so our church is starting to become, hey, if you need help, go talk to Shepherd. Good Shepherd can help you. But that's where we can help them as long as we get people to come volunteer. We need so much volunteer help. It's just incredible. Even earlier in the week, I talked to one of our, I called one of the smaller towns. It's about 2,200 people. I had gotten word that they were struggling, and this small community literally has 4 people trying to run their disaster center because they're so small. They don't get all the FEMA attention. They don't get that kind of help, and they don't get a lot of resources either. And I think this person, I said, so I heard this, that you guys are kind of struggling. She said, yeah, we are. And I said, well, what's your greatest need? And she said, we need volunteers. She said, we haven't had volunteers for 3 weeks come in and help. And I said to her, we are here to help. What can we do? What do you need us to do? I said, we will do whatever we need to do. And I think she almost started crying. She just was so overwhelmed. You know, this lady who is a nonprofit, works for a nonprofit, is now having to deal with disasters. And so that's the other thing. That's why we need volunteers, is our people are tired. They're weary. They need someone else to kind of bring a light and a hope and a love for them, so they know that they're not forgotten and they're not in this alone.
How can groups or individuals help serve with Good Shepherd, and what are those needs that people can help with?
Well, our greatest need, we have been getting lots of resources, which are always welcomed, and you can never kind of have enough resources. Orphan Grain Train has been a phenomenal organization that has helped us with so much, and we'll continue to partner with them. We were able to receive a grant from LCMS Disasters that is helpful. But those are just a couple of the number of just churches and things that have come forward with monetary gifts for us. But the biggest way, honestly, the most important way right now is we need volunteers. And you can go to our website gslcfremont.org, and there is a link there. We're calling this Project Restore. That's kind of the name of the initiative we're giving for this effort that our church is putting forth, Project Restore. And if you click on the Project Restore web icon on our website, that'll open up into an opportunity for you to register a group. Adult groups, youth groups, doesn't matter to us. We just need willing hearts. We need servant hearts here more than anything. That is definitely our greatest need. I'm getting tons of people saying we need help, and I don't have people right now to send them. As a matter of fact, I was just chatting with our pastor yesterday, and I said, I got to reach out to my contacts in Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska, a couple of our larger towns, larger cities here in Nebraska, and I said, and we got to see if we can get people here like next week, because these things can't wait. It is a little bit time sensitive with some of the carrying out of the stuff that we need to do. So volunteers, as many volunteers as people are able to send.
So if you're listening right now, maybe you are preparing to, maybe your youth group is preparing to head to the National Youth Gathering, traveling across the country. Maybe you can make plans to stop in Fremont, Nebraska this summer and help out there. You can get in touch with our friends at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, GSLC Fremont. So it's GSLC FREMONT.org, and we'll provide a link to that as well for the Project Restore link on their page as well. We'll provide that with program notes today so that you can learn more there. I can relate to that. We've seen that right here in our own community in St. Louis and in the surrounding communities with the floods that have happened here. 2 floods, historic floods in the 500-year floodplain within a matter of 5 years. So we've seen that here, and our congregation has been significantly involved in that. And so we've seen that, and as you were talking about, just pulling out the insulation from underneath trailer homes, I got to see that firsthand, helping out at one of the flood sites a couple of years ago. And so I know what you're saying. There are a lot of folks here in this part of the Midwest that can relate to that. And so we need to, we can step up and get on the road and come out to Fremont and help as well. Again, check it out. Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Fremont, Nebraska, ready for your help. We'll provide that link. Remkea, thank you so much for being our guest today on the Coffee Hour, and God bless you on your efforts to serve your community with all those needs.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Coming up in just a little bit, Ramadan. What is it? What do we need to know about it as we're meeting and interacting with our Muslim neighbors? You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.